Hey, the Facebook family. How you doing? So this is my am I getting stood up face. I was supposed to be doing a live tonight with the brother Saeed at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock Eastern. And bro, where you at? I got all ready, beautified and everything. And I guess maybe he forgot or something came up. So I just wanted to pop in and just let the people who I did tell about this know I didn't forget. I didn't forget. So since we are here, and let me see who's here with me. Y'all know I can't see. Yanifa, hi. Yanifa Oyapidan, hi. Sister Katrina, Brother Joseph, the love of my life, Randall, Jata. Hello, Veronica, Renee. Peace and love, Brother Jarchid. What's up, everybody? So the topic that we were going to discuss, that he was going to, I guess, interview me on, was reclaiming African spirituality. And it was just going to be like an overview of what it is and why there seems to be a sort of move back to kind of reclaiming our spiritual identities, our spiritual practices, our traditions and our works, and what that means, to be a black person in America, or however you want to identify, yourself here in this country, United States. What it means, there have been a few articles that have come out over the years about how black people, particularly women, are leaving the Christian churches and are seeking out their own brand of spirituality. And 90% of it is a return to African traditions. What I find is that a lot of folks are jumping to practices in the diaspora, that were brought to those places, because of the transatlantic slave trade. And then a lot of other folks are bypassing the diaspora altogether and are returning to traditions on the continent, specifically West African traditions, mainly the Yoruba-based tradition, but also a lot of folks are looking at what's going on in Ghana. Some folks are even going further south and studying the traditions practiced in South Africa as well. And it's all beautiful, it's all empowering, it's fascinating, and I'm just so overjoyed to see so many of Africa's children going home, even if they're not there for, spiritual journeys or to learn or get initiations, just to touch that land. I myself haven't done it yet. I was just having conversations with several people today about just that, sort of a pilgrimage home. And we're real excited and looking forward to doing that. Who else is here? Brother Mikai, yes, hi. Sister Veronica says, we were the Christian powerhouses. Without us, there would be no black church. We are just inherently spiritual. Yes, you're absolutely right. A thing that me and my buddies always say is that, they didn't really make our people Christians. We Africanized Christianity. So the black church is unique in that regard. You know what I'm saying? It's just, y'all know how we do, we black, and we add seasoning to everything that we do. Okay. There was a book that I read, and I've mentioned this before, but there was a book that I read in my research for the book I'm writing, and it was a letter that the author had received from a white woman whose husband owned a plantation, owned slaves. And since they were such devout Christians, they felt, we've got to, baptize our slaves and have them minister to each other. And the favorite of the male slaves that they had, they taught to read, and more specifically, they taught him how to read the Bible so that he could minister to the rest of his brethren and sistren. And so since the Africans weren't allowed to go to these churches, the white churches off the plantation, the white folks would go to church, and then they would come home and then allow the slaves to have slave service, like right outside. They would set up chairs and a little podium, And what she described in the letter is that he would preach to them, and they would just enter this state of like euphoria, right? Where they would start just, moving and shaking and vibrating and rocking and falling out and rolling around and running around and hooting and hollering and shouting and speaking gibberish. And they were just so taken aback by this spectacle, right? It was a spectacle. And so it was very curious. And so they told some of their folks about it and said, you got to come see this shit. And so they invited, other white people to their plantation to witness this. And they found themselves, getting closer and closer and closer, because they started out in a distance. And then over time, they moved closer to the point where they were actually sitting among the slaves. And they wanted to experience what these Africans were experiencing, because they felt like, they're such like humble beasts of burden. Maybe, that's why God is gracing them. They felt like something about them maybe, made them closer to God because of their, their station, how they saw them as these downtrodden, creatures, right? So that letter made me realize that, they didn't have any awareness of, receiving the Spirit in that way. And what they started to do was emulate and mimic what they saw these black folks doing, these African slaves doing, okay? Because they felt that it would give them this same sort of divine experience that they believed the Africans were having. So then later, with the churches in the South and everything, rhythm and beat and song was a huge part of our praise and worship style. And that is inherently African, okay? Most other churches, the church was very solemn and quiet, and, not just with the Catholics, but even with the white Protestants, even today. I remember being a child when my father was considering converting from the Hindu faith to the Christian one. We went and visited a lot of different churches, black churches and mixed churches as well. And in the mixed churches, it was just very boring, very quiet, very still, very, whereas in the black churches, especially my mother's home church, which was Baptist, missionary Baptist, ain't no sitting still and being quiet. No, it was very jubilant, very expressive, high energy, and it didn't matter what you believed in, you're going to feel that shit, okay? You're going to feel something, you're going to see something, you're going to hear something. All right, you might not have personally gotten shaken up by that spirit, but you will get shook in the black church, So my dad, he come from a different culture, so he kind of went with, the AME church, and AME church, even though it was black, it wasn't, as exuberant and jubilant as the Baptist church. It's kind of like a happy medium, I guess. But that's just the way we do. And the black church experience has inspired so much of our culture. Music, that's like the obvious one, right? How our praise songs turned into popular music. It was like the basis for popular music, right? Jazz and the blues, and then later on rhythm and blues and soul music, all of it, right? It started with our inherent ability to express ourselves in a very joyful way. Even when we were singing about, the most depressing, heartbreaking things, we still did it in a way with such style, and it's emulated and copied all the time over the years. Everybody wants that sound. So that's just a part of it. So now that we see people are moving away from it, listen, I still go to church. Okay, I haven't been in a minute, but I ain't never going to stop going to church. That's just me. That's just a part of me. Okay. And I tend to only go for the music and to feel the feels. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily to go there and learn anything from the sermon specifically, because I'm not a practicing Christian anymore. So, but the music and the expression, the fellowship, the energy, the feeling, the vibe. The African presence is very much alive and well in the Black church, So I understand why people, are moving away from the indoctrination of Christianity. Okay, I totally get that. And they're finding this empowering sort of liberation with identifying to something that, it truly was lost, for all intents and purposes. It was lost. Okay, so what was left over, right? Because it wasn't fully obliterated here in the United States. There's still a very real African spirituality here. It just got so fragmented over time, depending on where you are, because this is a regional take on it, okay? Folks who lived on the Eastern Seaboard, for example, folks who lived in the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia, and even down in Florida, they have a very different experience of the spiritual retention, okay, that came from the ancestors that were brought over here. And then, of course, obviously, Louisiana, and not just New Orleans. Even though New Orleans is considered the Mecca, there are other cities in Louisiana that still retain that African spiritual tradition, right? And then in other parts of the South, even here in Chicago, you'll see some of the old school spiritual churches. There's one right behind my house. I've been there a few times. I remember I took my daughter with me, my youngest daughter, and she saw the altar that they have set up when you first walk in, and she was like, "Ooh, Ma, is this a voodoo church?" Which I thought was really cute. But not really. I mean, if you don't know a whole lot about the spiritual church, and you might look at things and think, oh yeah, but it's got its own history. It's not necessarily voodoo. However, a lot of folks who attend the churches are also practitioners of voodoo or hoodoo or conjure root work, however you want to call it. So what we're seeing now, hey, Brother Larry. What we're seeing now is a return to these traditions by Black folks here, and I'm here for it all. I am here for it all. Folks are getting their initiations, both here and abroad. Some folks are going to Cuba. Some folks are going to the continent, to Nigeria, to Ghana, and all these other places. And I'm just here for all of that, man, because for so long, collectively, we as Black people have been taught to run the other way from that stuff, right? And that's just part of the indoctrination. Listen, when the people who belong to the oppressive class tell you to go the other way, you should really ask yourself why, okay? When your enemies tell you something is bad for you, you better question the fuck out of that shit. Sorry, excuse my French, but you better start questioning that shit, okay? Because what have they shown us, historically? What have they shown us, Right out the gate, they told us we was ugly for being Black, for being African looking. Right out the gate, they told us all kind of bullshit lies about who we were and how we were and how we do, right? And a lot of times we believed it, right? So why in the world can we take anything that they taught us for truth? Okay, because it seems like they have a pattern of taking everything that's powerful and empowering about us and twisting it into something that is bad for us, right? I mean, even with the organization I rock with, we're near Chicago, where we go into the community and we show love and empowerment on the people. We go into the communities and we pick up trash. We knock on the doors and hug our neighbors and share resources with them. And the police beat us up for that. Yeah, they totally attacked us for doing just that. Something very positive and very important. What is the problem with Black folks telling Black folks, I love you. You're beautiful. You're a king. You're a queen. You're greatness. So you got to start questioning, why in the world would that be problematic to a bunch of white police? But anyway, we were supposed to be discussing this reclamation to African spirituality. Now, I myself am not an initiated priest of any tradition. I've looked into a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And a couple of them have come upon my view, right? But at this point in time, I have no initiations. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get any initiations. Just that right now I don't have them. I have my own practice that I do, right? And I'm very, very good at what I do. I'm very happy with what I do. It works well for me. I don't talk a lot about how I do things publicly. I believe in learning in person. I believe in, witnessing certain things just in person. This isn't something that you can just, put out there, and for a lot of reasons. First of all, it can be dangerous, to put yourself out there like that. Okay. There are people who aren't all together, and they, might think something's going on, or somebody did something to them, and then want to, pull up on them and take them out. I mean, we've read the stories, these things have made news before, so it's just not so safe to put yourself out there like that. Okay. Another thing is that a lot of the work just silences power. Talking about it isn't really adding anything to it. It could potentially take away from what you're doing. So I don't really put a lot of stuff that I do out there. Okay, not knocking anybody else that does. This is the age of social media, and people are, good at wanting to share things, and that's fine. I'm just not really one of those people that's so into sharing. You want to see what I do? Come to my house. I don't have any problem explaining anything that you see in my home, and people who have been in my home know this about me. If there's something going on that can't be seen, I'll hide it. Or I will, keep it out of the view of other eyes. But for the most part, I have several altars around my house. Several the tools that I work with are for the most part out in some instances. So anybody can ask me anything, because it's I need to know who the fuck you are. Okay, online you don't know who's who. Yeah, you don't know what's going on. It's so easy for people to hide behind fake accounts and just mine for, data mine and collect and gather intel and and you don't know who you're talking to. All right. So this stuff, there's a huge element of responsibility that goes along with this work. Okay. It just isn't for everybody. It isn't for public consumption. Okay, the basic foundations and the history, yes, please spread that, because there's a lot of misconceptions, lies, and revisionist history going on right now, where people outside of Black root culture are trying to, claim ownership of it, and then, craft up this whole other history about it. And y'all know me, I'm an advocate for our ancestral traditions, and I'm not going to just sit idly by and watch these people wreak havoc in something that our enslaved ancestors utilized to survive their ancestors in this land, and even elsewhere in the diaspora. How does that work exactly? Okay, because these spiritual traditions were almost reborn out of pain and suffering and oppression. Okay? And for other people to want to just come in and latch hold to these things, and then fashion themselves as experts, and priests and all this stuff out of something that was born out of the pain and suffering of my people, your people, nah. Okay. Now, yeah, people are, certain individuals outside of, the culture have been given entry, but a lot of that has to do with proximity. Okay, a lot of that has to do with you just being in that community, being a part of that community, and that family or that house trusted you enough as one of their own family. They trusted you so much that you could just walk into the house like you lived there, go straight into the refrigerator and get you something to eat. You know what I'm saying? That does happen, but it's very, very rare. It's very, very rare. We're still living in a society that is very racist, okay? Very polarized and segregated. And so there's a lot of still mistrust going on. You understand? And that isn't hard to see. You know, look at our criminal justice system. You know, look at just all the discrimination that still goes on today, right? Anti-Black racism, especially, you know, with what's going on because of who's in the White House right now. So it's like, you don't know, well, a lot of folks rather don't know who they can and cannot trust these days. And my thing is, you know, I'm not just going to be all open arms and accepting people, okay, because it's politically correct and I owe them something or, you know, whatever. I don't do that shit. Listen, you're all racist to me until you prove otherwise. I ain't, you know, that's your burden. Okay, a lot of Black folks think the burden is on them to accept and love everybody. Well, that's an indoctrination. That came down from our enslaved ancestors. We didn't have a choice but to put the white folks' needs first, even after slavery. You know, during Jim Crow and Reconstruction, we still had to put them other people's first. Okay, we had to put ourselves and our families second, or even third in some cases. All right, but now time has moved on. Here we are in the 21st century, and in our minds, we still are holding on to that, them first, them first, them first. You know, oh, we are so welcoming. Yeah, come on in, come on in. And then some bullshit happen, and then we find out, you know, the hard way, damn, they was racist, you know, or damn, you know, they were, you know what I'm saying? That reality. I'm almost 50 years old, and I have lived that. Okay, ever since I was a child, okay? So ain't nobody got to tell me nothing, okay? I can only go by my experiences, you know, just living life. So that's my stance, you know, just like Muhammad Ali said in that video that's been going around. I think I shared it recently on my page where he's being interviewed about his position about white people. And he's like, listen, you know, if there's a 1,000 snakes coming at my door, and I'm paraphrasing, but if he says there's 1,000 snakes and you tell me, you know, 100 of them are not poisonous, but the rest of them are, am I supposed to let them all in and try to figure out which ones are the good ones and which ones are, you know what I'm saying? Anybody got time for that shit? I know I don't. Okay? I don't. So my default is I don't trust you. Okay? And I don't believe that you're not racist until you prove otherwise, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of racist white folks are coming to these African traditions, all right? We got that dude, what's his name? Kenaz Filan, right? He was all good with the Black voodoo folks until, what, a year ago? Okay? He's a published author. He's written books on voodoo. Haitian voodoo and New Orleans voodoo. So how come he just came out a few months ago as an alt-right member? Okay, but if you try to tell people a year ago, don't trust him, okay? He's suspicious. Why is he in your, you know, but now he's with the nationalists and the racists and the clans and the neo-Nazis and all them motherfuckers shit. And still rocking with the Loas, mind you. How does that work? Okay? We got fucking neo-Nazis with hoodoo channels on YouTube, and they're getting scratched into Palo Mayombe. How does that work? Okay? A lot of these spiritual traditions, again, were used to bolster up the warriors to fight against the enemy. All right? So how are you going to have somebody repping that shit and something that Africans themselves used to fight their oppressors, who were white folks? I don't understand that. And I know a lot of people have an issue with that. They say things like, oh, well, we don't get to pick and choose, who the spirits want, who the spirits want, and who are we to argue with the spirits? We can't, and they say these things. But what they don't understand is that with these African traditions, being as old as they are, okay, these traditions were developed before they even knew white people existed, okay? So just because there's nothing in the doctrine, for lack of a better term, that specifically gives instructions on what to do with people who look differently or are different from you, that doesn't mean that that's the damn green light to just let any old body into this. But that's just me. Your mileage may vary, okay? That's just me, all right? And it doesn't matter if you don't like it or think I'm wrong. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's okay. I don't have a problem with people who disagree with me on that. I just know where I stand with that. Okay? So as far as what I got up in here, you got to be black to get up in this thing, as far as I'm concerned. Okay? You got to be African descended. And that's just the long and short of it. Okay? But anyway, I'm going to go through here and see. I should probably put my glasses on so I can see, right? Because I'm trying to be cute and shit. Does anybody have any questions? We all need to go back home. Yes, Brother Tiarchid. Well, we all know about, Christianity starting in Ethiopia, but Ethiopia is so far away from our experience ancestrally. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to me personally, okay? The fact that how it, transformed over time to be used as a weapon, okay, against the freaking whole world pretty much, that totally takes away from it starting there. You know what I'm saying? Church can be held anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a building. That's true. That's absolutely true. Why would they keep us from destruction? That's a question from Jacha. Why would they keep us from destruction? Turn around and destroy us. Pops always said, why would they steer us from wrong? That's right. Exactly. The lipstick is killing the game. Thank you, Fatima. Yes, this is Beauty Bakery, and this is the Gabby Douglas from the Gabby Douglas line. Yes, this is the plum sorbet. I think I ordered it about a week or two ago, and I just got it a few days ago. And I normally don't like a matte. This is a matte lip color, liquid lipstick, and I have a problem with chapped lips, so mattes tend to fuck me up. But this one it's not too bad. It's not too bad, and it stays on, does not come off, but thank you so much. That is Beauty Bakery. It was an ad I saw on Facebook. They have a little promo video of some lips, and they're putting it on, and I saw it, and I was like, man, I gotta have that, so I got it. But black-owned beauty, yes. They have racists that don't even know they are racist. That's right, Fatima. That's right. That's why I love Ifa. They cannot enter for ancestor veneration. They have no African ancestry. Well, the thing about Ifa is that a lot of folks believe that Ifa needs to replace, the big Abrahamic religions to make the world a better place. And I really can't say that I disagree with that, because I'm studying it, and it truly is beautiful. But my whole thing is people who are just inherently dispositioned to hate people who look like us and who have proven it and are, still proving it. Look at what they're doing to our motherland. Look at what they're doing to people of different shades of melanin all over the planet. It's like, I don't know. Okay. I just don't know, because what I've seen personally is that a lot of white folks who come to West African traditions, including Ifa, they tend to, have this history of jumping from one sorcery type of thing to another. Wicca, witchcraft, Druid, shamanism, these ceremonial magic orders and other types of occultisms and whatever. And then they land in these religions, and or these traditions. And it's like, who are you kidding? Why don't you tell the truth about why you're really here? You just want the magic and the sorcery. And that's the reason why a lot of them are coming to root work, because they want what they believe is powerful magic, powerful sorcery, and all like that. Well, listen, what we got is in us, right? At the end of the day, you can have 5011 oils and candles and powders and herbs and all that stuff. But what if you didn't have none of that shit? You mean to tell me your powerful magical ass couldn't make some shit move? Would you really need all them things? No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Okay? That's just inherent in us. Tools allow us to focus, right? And to guide our intention, right? And it allows us to get a laser sharp focus. And these things do have spiritual essences and spiritual powers. Yes, they do. Okay? But at the end of the day, it's up to the person that's doing the work. All right? They have to be predispositioned. You follow? You have to have that spiritual ashe and doki chi, or whatever you want to call it. All right? That's just in us. All right. So a lot of people think when they get these initiations, they're just going to go from, regular old Joe to the grand poobah of all things sorcery and magic and, the supernatural. And that's just not how it works. Okay. So I see a lot of white folks that get these initiations and they walk around slinging balls big time. Like, ooh, everybody's supposed to shake like booty meat when they come into their room. Ooh, hoo, hoo. And that shit is hilarious to me, man. Like, you bitch, impress your own self with that shit, okay? Because you get from me. That shit don't impress me, okay? I'm not easily impressed nor intimidated by anything or anyone. I don't give a fuck who you are, where you been, what you got, how much money you got, what the fuck, your pedigree, your degrees, what you did, where you been, who you know. That shit does not impress me at all. Okay? I'm impressed by integrity. I'm impressed by sincerity. I'm impressed by people who are really passionate about causes or the things that they're doing. I'm impressed by talent and art. I'm impressed by creative spirit and energy. I'm impressed by people who can take nothing and make something out of it. Okay? Not somebody who had to go and latch on to somebody else's shit and claim it. That does not impress me. Okay? So, there you go with that. And yeah, a lot of people disagree with my stance and my point of view, because they think that all these people they know, they can give them passes. You know what I'm saying? But I just have discernment. Okay? I got something of a radar going on and I can see the bullshit from a mile away when other people can't. I just choose not to debate or argue with folks. They'll find out over time, sort of like a whole bunch of folks found out with Cat Ironwood of Lucky Mojo. I knew people who were caping for her when I was trying to tell them, she ain't no good and she ain't doing y'all no good. But people still wanted to, stay close with her and stick by her and whatever. And now look, she did some scantless ass shit and insulted a whole bunch of traditions in the process. And now people can really see her for who she is. Everybody ain't gonna, go at the same time. Some people, it's going to take them a little bit more time and experience to see certain things. Everybody just doesn't move the same way and everybody doesn't have the same perspective or perception at the same time. And I get it. It's just frustrating when you see people you care about, being used and dogged out. That's just the way that is. Let me see what other questions y'all got. Hey, Sue, you back in New York? Okay, Queen, I'll see you when you come back to the Shy. I am Nigerian, not Ethiopian. But you know what? I love Ethiopians. I love their food, man. I haven't had Ethiopian food in a minute. Why is it that people from around have altars except us and Europeans? Because we lost our shit, but not really. Did we really lose our altars? Did we really lose our sacred spaces? Did we really lose the way we pay homage to our people? Not really. Not really. Growing up black, your people had them shrines. They just did not call them ancestral shrines. They did not call them ancestral altars. Okay, they were just nice little spaces in the house where they put up the pictures of the people who were gone before them. And sometimes they put the knickknacks up there with them. Sometimes they put flowers. Sometimes they would put, little candies even. All right, and you could see this on fireplace mantles. You could see this on top of the pianos if there were pianos. You could see them on top of, the chiffon or even coffee tables. You see these things, and they've always been associated with old folks, right? They always be associated. Well, there's a reason why they're associated with the old folks, okay? Because they're older, and so they had more contact with these kinds of things, okay? Each generation, they don't really get it until they get to be a certain age. You know what I'm saying? So we still had it. We just didn't know what it was. We didn't know what to call it. Just like a lot of stuff in black culture, y'all. A lot of stuff in black culture. For example, that cast iron skillet. That cast iron skillet that everybody want to fight over when somebody dies, right? Big Mama them had that, cast iron cookware, and now they're gone. So who's going to get it? Because we usually don't leave wills and things like that. Like who's going to get the skillets and who's going to get the Dutch ovens and whatever, right? But we know that there's power in that cookware. We do know this, right? There's power when we stand over the stove and cook a meal, period. There's tons of juju in the act of cooking food. That's why I always tell young women when they, balk at fixing a man's plate, like, you just don't know the power that you got when you fix a man's plate. And this isn't to say that when I fix your plate, baby, that I'm doing juju on you. Wait a minute. Okay. My husband is on this live, y'all. Next question. Fatima, Beauty Bakery, I believe, is black owned. If they're not, ooh, I'm going to be in trouble. Yes, they want the magic. They want the sorcery. They don't care about our ancestors. They don't care about our gods. They don't care about our, none of that stuff. I do know a few people that don't fit that, that description. Okay, there's an exception to that rule. That's all I can really say about that. The work has to be ordained. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, not yet. Hey, brother TJ. I'm squinting, put on my glasses. I squint with these things. They old as fuck. I need new ones. See, now I can't. I got to do this to see. Lord. Hey, I need my eyes checked. That's for real. They would put the candy on top. That's right, at Christmas. That's right. And holidays, we really get down. For example, New Year's Eve, right? Most black folks eat what on New Year's? What do we eat, right? And a lot of folks, think that's just for good luck and prosperity only. And there's a little bit more to why we do that. We're paying homage to our ancestors when we do that, because the things like black-eyed peas and okra, for example, okra, which is called gumbo, right? That's what it's called, literally. Black-eyed peas and okra and what's the other thing, y'all? Lord. But, even the greens, right? There are specific greens that they eat in West Africa, right? So all of those things are giving thanks to our ancestors who were brought over here. Okay, they brought the okra seeds with them. They brought the black-eyed pea, right? They brought those things here. So when we're celebrating the new year, we're also celebrating our people, our ancestors, and some black folks like mine. We will fix a plate in remembrance of the people we lost the previous year who are no longer with us. So we will fix that little plate of food and sit it there for them. Okay, so a lot of these things just lost their true spiritual meaning over time. Like when we pour libations for the dead, you know, that's seen as, oh, that's that stuff the folk in the hood do, or that's some, you know, stuff black folks do, or that's what they do in the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? Pouring libations is a very inherent African spiritual practice. Okay, you pour libations for the ancestors before we do anything else. And one of the things that I like to do specifically before any type of working is to pour libations for the original custodians of this land, okay, the people who were here first, okay, because this is the land I'm living on, this is the land I'm loving and breathing and working on, and it's just a show of respect and deference and reverence to the original people of the land, because this was their land first, okay. Peace and blessings, Mambo Yanza. And if you're not following Mambo Yanza, man, you're missing out. She does lives daily pretty much on spirituality, and she is well more versed in the traditions that I mentioned, the African traditions that a lot of people are getting pulled to or drawn to. So please follow her and you'll get way more information, more details, you know, because she is initiated into a few of them. Here I go squinting again. Yes, about that cast iron. A lot of juju in them skillets, y'all. That's why they got to be washed a special way. They got to be cleaned a special way. I said wash, listen to me. They have to be cleaned a special way. You don't want to wash them. What do I think about black Wiccans? Now, see, Nada, you're gonna really have me on here cussing. You're trying to get me cussing, girl. What do I think about black Wiccans? Well, as someone who, in her younger days, came upon the tradition of Wicca, and left it just as fast. Because it wasn't shit. Okay, let me stop. But yeah, I understand the appeal. I also understand that we live in an indoctrinated society. So, you know, our first contact with pretty much a lot of things is through white lenses. You know, this is their society. They dominate this shit. They are the ones who say what is good. They are the ones who establish value in everything, right? This white capitalistic society. That's their shit, you know? And so basically everything that we consider worthy, good, or of value is because they told us it was. So a lot of people, they just tend to navigate or be drawn to white shit because they think it's good, right? I was first time I really understood white witchcraft, not understood, but first time I ever saw white witchcraft is in a book my mother had when I was very little called What Witches Do. And it was about white witchcraft, and it was on her high shelf, and I used to watch, you know, her get and put books back on certain shelves and on her bookcase, and of course, if it's up there and I can't reach it, it must be something that I need to see. So I was a very curious child. So I would move the chair and climb up and, you know, get those books. And that was one of the books that I got. And I opened it up and I saw a bunch of white naked people. I saw a bunch of, they got pictures in the book. I have the book, actually. I'll have to show you guys sometime. But there were naked white people, you know, so when you're a kid and you see some naked people, it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? But that was the first time I ever seen anything about witchcraft or, you know, what they were calling witchcraft or Wicca or whatever. And then it came upon my view again in the 80s when it became real popular. And it was still kind of underground, but it was, popular amongst the New Age alternative spiritual crowd, right? Because that's the crowd that my mom kind of navigated in at the time. So I came upon Wicca, and I'm like, oh, cool, magic. And then the more I looked at it, it was like, no, this is about Diana and the god and the goddess and the great rite and all these moon things. And, that did not jive with me, okay? All these images of these blonde, blue-eyed white folks and, the goat man and, all the three law, whatever, So then one day my mom hands me this book, and this is several years later. She hands me this book by Louisa Tish called Jambalaya that just totally busts my world wide open, okay? I think that was the first time I even heard of an Orisha. And, it was just like, wow, this is interesting. But at the same time, she subscribed to this, it was like a magazine. I forget the name of it. Folks in Chicago helped me out. And I don't know if this thing is still published because I don't live in that kind of neighborhood where they would have this monthly magazine. Oh gosh, I want to say the Aquarian or I forgot what it was called, but it was this new age alternative tradition kind of circular a periodical. It was free. I believe it's free. Yeah, I think it was free. And I remember, looking at one of those, and I saw an article in there about people blasting Wicca, how Wicca is not really an ancient tradition. It was made up, and crafted by these white men in the 50s who were basically trying to give folks an alternative to the black church or the Church of Satan. That was started up then by Anton LaVey. And Anton LaVey was getting all the pussy. Okay, he was getting all the white Hollywood pussy. And so these other folks are like, damn, we want all the white Hollywood pussy too. But Satan is kind of creepy, and yeah. So they came up with this white witchcraft version so they could pretty much do the same thing, because that was all the rage back in those days. The free love movement and anti-church and anti-war, so it all kind of went together at the right time. And so in this article, they were basically refuting all the things that these folks had been putting out there, okay? And these were people who were like British scholars, and they were basically saying that, that's not true. So basically what it amounted to is like, these folks just got together, took a little bit of historical truth, and crafted their own tradition. Okay, and that was that. So I'm like, no wonder ain't no power behind that shit. However, there seems to be a revival with this new generation of young people, because all the folks that I remember that used to do Wicca, they don't do it. They moved on to other things, right? So now it's like this whole new generation have gotten a hold of it, and it's kind of taken off again and becoming, popular and mainstream all over again. And my opinion is the same, I don't see the need personally for African descended people to honor European gods, especially gods that don't really have anything to do with their day-to-day. But hey, blonde, blue-eyed Jesus done saved a lot of Negroes. So, let me see what else y'all got in here. J.B. Johnson said he fixing his own damn plate. Well, baby, I ain't mean to trip you out like that. What I mean by that is we bless for things like good health, and prosperity and removing obstacles from our loved ones' lives, all right? It has nothing to do with hexing, cursing, bonding like people think. Not to say that other women don't do these things, but it's not as nefarious as I let on. I was just being funny. Randall said he eating all his shit out of a can. Y'all too much. Okay. Asking for the green card. I found that sage cleans better than Africans' oils and incense. Is it tied to the blood of their ancestors in this soil? That's a great question. And you're probably on to something. You're probably definitely on to something. Personally, I think the best way to get answers is to talk to them. Okay, talk to those that are culture bearers for their spiritual traditions that have been unbroken over time. Okay, talk to the ones that have kept their history and their spirituality intact despite what has happened to them and their ancestors. They've kept their legacies very much alive, and get it from the source. Okay, that's what I like to do. I like to get my information from the source. So, but you definitely are probably onto something very valid. I think it was the Aquarius magazine, but it had another name. I might be getting it confused with something else, but it was free, and you could find it on the north side in Chicago. Maybe sometimes in Hyde Park, but definitely not here in the hood where I live. Absolutely not. Peace and love, Brother Lawrence. Peace and love, Sister Erica. Hey, Brother Martin. Okay, so, goulash, greens and black. Now I'm getting hungry. Yes, Ethiopian food is the bomb. My understanding is that all African spiritual systems are rooted in medicine. Yes, rooted in well, here's the thing. The African approach to illness is that there's a physical component and a spiritual one. It's all intertwined, right? There's no separation from our physical bodies and our spiritual bodies. Okay, so the approach to treatment is the same way. Okay, it's the same way. So, for example, we can use silver, right, to ward off negative spirits and bad tricks, right, to protect us against bad juju. Okay, and so what folks did back in the day was to wear little, what you might want to call talismans or amulets of silver dimes. They would wear them around their ankles, around their necks, around their wrists, sometimes in their hair. They would bore holes in these silver dimes and then make them into pendants to protect them against any type of spiritual crap, right? However, sometimes silver was put in water, okay? It was left to sit in water for a while, and then the patient, would drink it. And that was seen as also as a curative. I know my stepmother, she is from the Deep South, and something that they did was copper water. She told me they would take copper pennies and do the same thing, and let the pennies stay in the water and then drink it. So what do we know today in the 21st century? Both silver is now known as a curative, right? It has healing properties, and we also know that copper has healing properties. So our people they've been knowing this stuff, okay? So things have spiritual elements to them, and they also have physical health benefits to them as well. So, we don't separate that stuff. Just like with the turpentine, I did an interview with Brother T.J. Blackman about my ancestral setup here. And one of the things I keep on there is a bottle of turpentine. right? But I keep saying turpentine because that's how it's in my head, is turpentine. But it's not turpentine. Y'all know it's not. It's turpentine when we say turpentine. Anyway, it was used as a medicine, okay? We ingested it physically, right? And it was also used as a spiritual medicine, okay, to ward off evil, okay? So it's always a twofer with the African approach to healing and health. Okay, so if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I'm gonna get off this thing. Yeah, Nifa Oyapi Remy said, I do not need any of that. My tongue makes the earth move. Man, I love you for that. I love you for that. Yes, yes, yes. It is in our DNA. Ashe Mama. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Ashe hold to that. It is. It is. You know, it's our seasoning. What can I say? Now our cookware is made from stuff that's bad. Yeah. Yeah. Always go with the cast iron, the real cast iron. Okay, I'm scrolling along. The problem is people don't research. They read 2.5 books and they think they know something. 2.5, 2.5 books. That's right. 2.5 books. That's exactly. And you know, now the stuff's starting to dry my lips out. I can feel it. And that's fine. You know, when people come across new information and it clicks, you know, it jibes with them. It appeals to their sensibility. They get excited, and it's like they want to share, you know, they want to share it with everybody. They want to scream it from the rooftops and celebrate that shit, right? That's fine. You know, but don't be a student one week and then call yourself a master teacher the next week. A lot of this stuff takes living to truly understand the dynamics of it and the levels to it, because this stuff is complex and it can be very dangerous. I've seen people fuck their whole lives up dabbling and messing around, doing and mixing and matching different things they had no business dealing with. Okay, please take your time. Find good, reliable resources, all right? When the student is ready, the teacher will come. And a lot of people are taking this do-it-yourself approach to some of this stuff. And can I just tell you, a lot of these spirits, they're not sleeping anymore, okay? They never really were, all right? They're being prayed to, they're being venerated, they're being fed properly fed, okay, in our communities, okay? So when folks approach these spirits without the training and without the proper guidance, they don't really know what, you know, how to really appease them or propitiate them. They don't know that once, you know, you invoke or call or summon or whatever you know you think you're doing, and you don't know what to do once they show up, you can't, you know, it's just, it's hugely irresponsible to approach any of this without guidance and training, and in a lot of cases, initiations, okay? One of the myths about hoodoo, root culture, and all like that is that there is no initiation. And I think a lot of people are looking at it through the same lenses that they look at other traditions' initiations, because those are very public, you know, in some parts are very public, and you've got certain things that you can visibly, you know, have on your person that lets others know you know, you went through this and that, and now you're this and that, or you got whatever. And with Black American root culture, you know, since we don't get down like that for the most part, people just assume that there's no initiation and there's no levels to this, and it doesn't take years and years of studying and actually doing to know what you're doing to master this type of work. And so there's just this attitude that it's just some system of folk magic that anyone can just pick up and right out the gate be a master at it. And that is a lie. Or, as I like to say, that's a goddamn lie. That's a lie. Okay? There's levels to this shit. Levels. And the most fundamental parts of it require learning from your elders and being guided. Okay? A lot of folks, get online and they talk about, oh, well, my grandmother this and my grandmother that. Oh, well, what does she say about this? Why don't you? Oh, well, she dead now, but she, she taught me this and and there's all this, grandstanding and pontification and posturing going on, and you can tell. All right. And I have to thank Kat Ironwood for that, because you see people parroting the same bullshit that she puts out, in her sites and her books and everything. But these other folks are saying their grandparents taught them that. Okay. And Kat doesn't know all the secrets to the real work. Okay. She doesn't know that part. She thinks that one day she'll get lucky and get a black person who will willingly write down all the secrets, and give them to her so she will know the answers that she seeks. Okay? But, I almost did that. As I said in one of my lives, I signed up for her shit. And when I saw that damn homework assignment, I'm like, woo, really? Are you freaking kidding me, lady? But I just said, okay, I'm just going to, sit back and see exactly, how does this work here exactly? You know what I mean? Like, what the, because then she owns the publishing rights to your shit. Whatever you send her, she going to own the publishing right and then try to publish that shit or talk about it on her show or put it on her blog or whatever the case may be. So she can get closer and closer to the hoodoo truth. And my spirits are like, hell no. You ain't doing us like that. So I did not submit a single thing to her. Okay? And she had people, trying to pick my brain and find out shit. Like this one lady was like, oh, well, I did this ritual for love. And she named, about 15, 20 different things that she used, all these oils and all these candles and these powders and these herbs and this and that and the third and the washes and the incense. And she didn't get any results. And she asked me what I thought about it. And I'm like, well, she's like, well, how would you have approached it? And I said, well, I just would have used some sticks and some string, And she thought I was trying to insult her, and I wasn't, But you can't sell that on your hoodoo website. You can't sell some twigs and a piece of string. It has to be, a certain length and has to have a certain number of knots in it. But that, you got to have a person's hair, or threads from their clothing, or, you know what I'm saying? You can't sell that in a hoodoo shop. Okay, you can't. But that's the work, and it's pretty fucking powerful. But how do you commodify that? How do you commodify some damn sticks? How do you commodify some damn string that you can get from the craft store or the hardware store? How do you commodify that, right? You can't. You can't do that. So this woman, she's trying to commodify this work. And you got to have materials and fancy packages, with fancy graphics and all these kinds of things. And it's all a marketing ploy. Okay? It's all a marketing ploy. So a lot of people get sucked into this thinking that that's all the work is about. It's the actual materials. And that's not so. Okay? The accoutrements are part of it. Okay? But that's not all of it. And the all of it is what you get when you are at the feet of your elders. I'm sorry, that's the only way you're really going to ever get it, is to be in the presence of somebody that has practiced this enough to master it. Now, I'm grateful that I have such people in my life. My mother, first and foremost. Okay? And she even on Facebook, y'all. She ain't watching this live tonight, though. Where you at, Ma? Where you at? Where you at, Mama? But anyway, yeah. But a lot of my stuff I got from her and from other family members who were around when my grandparents were around and up and kicking, okay? And they remember the stuff that was going down when the old folks were still living, okay? So that's just, a lot of this stuff is not going to be written down. And it's really not going to be given to people outside of our families, outside of our houses, outside of our communities, okay, outside of our culture, okay? That's just, there's no shortcuts to that type of knowledge. There's just no way, okay? Like I said in my my podcast, and please, check out my podcast, y'all. It's called Mama Rue's Ancestral Musings, and it's on Spreaker. And every time I have an episode, I put it on my page, right? And it's on my Twitter as well. But one of the things that I said is that, there's a large part of this work that you just can't write down. You can't really even tell someone. They have to be in your presence. They have to actually feel to understand it, okay? There's certain things you have to experience in a visceral way to truly understand them, okay? Now, I can just tell you, I got my pendulum, and it's going to do this and that's going to mean this and this and that, but it's a totally different thing if you're sitting right there in the room with me and you're witnessing this for yourself, okay? And there's even a little bit of vibration that can be picked up on if you're sensitive like that. And I could never give that to you on a Facebook Live, on my podcast, a YouTube video, or a book or a blog or anything like that. You have to be physically here to witness certain phenomena, okay, as it's happening in real time right in front of your face. And the way that you receive certain things adds to, your own energy, okay? And that's just something that these appropriators, they can't sell you that in their little online hoodoo shops and their little brick and mortar stores. They just can't sell that. They can't be packaged. That kind of stuff is transmitted. So I hope that explains that part. But yeah, it's just, there's levels to this stuff. A large part of it is not going to be put out there. It will be kept secret, okay? It will be kept secret for a lot of different reasons. And people just have to respect that, okay? You must respect that because none of us owe you anything, We don't. And if you come to these things, have some respect, okay? I know I'm real hardcore about calling out bullshit, and a lot of folks get offended, and that's fine. But please understand, I'm coming from a place of passion and love. I'm very passionate about this work. And if I see folks are picking up the wrong information and taking it as truth, I'm going to say to you that that is wrong. And I'll try my best to be as polite and respectable about it as I can. But a lot of folks just don't receive it that way. And someone says, well, it's because you don't look like an elder. And God love you for that. But I'm almost 50 years old, y'all. So I think I would be an elder to a person that's still in their 20s or their early 30s, maybe. My daughters are 21 and 23, almost 22 and 24 now, and my son is 29. So I think I would be, but still, there's this whole entitlement. Hey, Sister Ty, if you're not following Sister Ty Shaw, follow Sister Ty Shaw, okay? Because she made a live recently that spoke on this whole attitude of entitlement that Westerners in general, don't matter what your race is or your ethnicity, but this Western entitlement that we have towards certain traditions. Okay. And I did touch on this too in one of my recent speaker episodes, where we feel like, since we are African descendant, that we have the right or the entitled attitude to just, run into all these traditions and pick up this and pick up that, because that's what's sexy on the street nowadays. And then you end up seeing shit like altars with a representation of Oshun sitting next to a statue of Isis, sitting next to a thing with Heru, and sitting next to Aphrodite, and you know what I mean? And you see all these things on one table, and that's the kind of shit that'll get you fucked up. Okay? If you do manage to get something, because all those stairs don't play with each other like that, y'all. Okay, they don't. Even within the group of Orishas, not all Orishas, work together like that. Just because they're all Orishas doesn't mean their energies are all going to be in alignment with one another. And so please follow Ty Shaw. She does excellent videos about these things. Anything that you need to know about, I think you're Osha. She's initiated into Osha. Lukumi, which is the diaspora tradition of Orisha worship, okay? And she also can speak knowledgeably about Palomayombe as well as Haitian Voodoo. All right, so check out Tai Shaw. Very, very, very informative, very knowledgeable, excellent teacher. Yes, brother, you said, Brother Joe, hey, I am very hardcore, because the world we live in, it's pretty hardcore. The shit that our people face on the day-to-day, hardcore, okay? And that's another thing a lot of folks don't realize. We used our practices as tools of liberation to get us through the oppression, to get us, through the bullshit. Ain't shit changed. You know what I'm saying? Ain't shit changed. So the whole love and light thing, we can just love the hate away. I said this before and I'll say it again. When you are dealing with people who don't really even seem to operate on the human spectrum of emotion, such as love on one side and hate on the other, these folks seem totally outside of that, okay? I don't even know if you can call it hate. I just think it's pure, unadulterated evil. Okay, so it transcends love and hate, because those are very human emotions. You got to be some other kind of shit to be so insidious and evil. And that's what our people have known, and that's what we know today. Some heinous shit is going on. Okay, and it's evil. It's not about hate. And I think hate is giving motherfuckers an out to do they fuck shit. Okay? Because when you say, oh, it's about hatred, then the knee-jerk response is, well, let's just love all the hate away, because wherever there's love, hate can't exist. Hate can't, come on, y'all. No. If you can, go into the middle of the night, go into somebody's house, snatch out somebody's sleeping father, or his wife and children are, screaming in terror, and take them to the nearest tree or bridge and cut off their penises and stuff them in their mouth and set them on fire and stab them and do all these things. That's not hate. That's not hate. That's beyond hate. That, to me, does not even fall on the realm of human emotion, period. Okay? When you look at these instances of police brutality where they can go and pump bullets into a child 2 seconds after showing up on the scene, okay? You're going to seriously shoot an 11-year-old in the chest 2 minutes after you roll up on the scene? That's not hate. That's not even fearing for your life. I don't know what the fuck that is. That's some monstrous, cruel, evil shit. That's some demonic shit. Okay? So, yes, I'm very hardcore. I'm very hardcore, y'all. Because the world I live in is just as hardcore against me and the people I love and care about. So that's how that goes. Hey, David Sosa, what's up? Hey, Sister Gina. That's my sister from Detroit, New Era, Detroit. Being in your presence for a few hours changed me, feeling the vibe, the truth, much respect. Yeah, Sister Gina has been here with me, and I miss you so much, Sister Gina. I hope you're well, holding down Detroit for the family over in New Era, Detroit. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we get it in over here, y'all. And what I love about how we get it in over here is that usually it isn't something planned. It just, the spirits just move us, you know. We have drums and all kinds of percussive things in my house. And it can get pretty festive spiritually here. So I don't do things like plan spiritual events, not very much. I do a lot of rituals here, but for the most part, they're very closed. I don't really do open rituals. I kind of experimented with it. But what I've noticed is when there's a lot of people up in here, and it's always when it's time to go home. You know, we're winding down, and now everybody's got their jackets on, and they end up at the door. For some reason, the spirits just snatch their asses back in my house, and next thing you know, folks is beating on these drums, and they got these shakiras, and they've got these cowbells, and they just fucking go. And everybody feels it. It's like a spontaneous combustion, a spontaneous reaction, and it just sweeps through the whole space, man. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I love it, and I can't wait till we do it again, you know. But yeah, that's just, and like I said, I have, you know, altars or sacred spaces, if you will, pretty much all over the house, you know. Ain't no rules to where, look, the spirits say want to go there, it's going to go there. I don't argue. I don't fight. I don't try to rationalize it. I just do. And it works out. It works out that way. So this is a very spiritually lively house, you know. Yes, it is. And you can see a thing or two. Because my spirits are not shy at all. A lot of my daughter's friends don't like sleeping over. Because, well, this was years ago. Their friends today are a little bit more witchy, so they're not as afraid. But in the past, my daughters would have their little friends sleep over, and they would spend one night in my house and be like, I ain't ever going back over again, because things do go bump in the night over here. They do. Like I said, it's a very spiritually lively house, and, you know, we've been taught to be afraid of these things, be afraid of what you can't see, and be afraid of the dead, and be afraid of the invisible, and be afraid of the unknown. And that's just not us. That's not who we are. For real, that's not who we are. Okay, we don't run from our dead. We don't run from our family just because they're no longer here. All right? Death is not the end. It's a transition for a reason. You're just transitioning from your physical flesh. But the spirit is still very much alive, and we still even radiate a lot of that. So a lot of times this physical phenomena that people want to think is, you know, scary and spooky, it's just the extension of our connection, okay? But yeah, I can't wait to get it in. Here's some of my drums. Well, they're not my drums. They're really my husband's drums. But we gets it in. Hey, Brother Daryl Cook. How you doing, bro? People absolutely fear what they don't understand. You're the truth too, Brother Joe, Brother Yusef. Yes, you are. We need to stop calling it police brutality when it's domestic terrorism. Yes, it's domestic terrorism. It always has been. Always has been. The damn Patty Patrol, the slave patrol, back in the day of slavery, a voluntary position, they would patrol the roads to catch, what they said, to catch runaways, and also to jack up anybody on the roads who was African. They would, you know, they didn't have a pass, they get jacked up. They get brutalized, beaten, tortured, even murdered. And sometimes they would have passes, and the passes would get destroyed because they were so, excuse me, into wanting to, you know, exact these cruelties on our ancestors' black bodies. So it didn't even matter in some cases that, you know, they had passes or not. And they became the Fraternal Order of Police. Okay, look it up. That's facts. And they brought that same element and mindset to the police. Okay, and for a very, 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 very long time, the police were always who? Okay? So just because, you know, we are equal opportunity employers now, and, affirmative action hiring, which I find very interesting because Chicago is supposed to be an affirmative action hiring city. It's supposed to put in city jobs the percentages of the population. So I remember at one point Chicago was 52% black, but the Chicago Police Department wasn't 52% black. Okay, and I think those numbers are changing now thanks to former Mayor Daley closing down all the public housing projects and moving a lot of black folks out of the city and enticing more white people from the suburbs, because they fled to the burbs, right? And now they're moving back to the city. Okay, so the numbers may be a little bit different today because of that. But domestic terrorism is exactly what it is. Back in the days of slavery, 3 slaves could not congregate together. Okay, so there was always that patroller or that overseer to go and find out what they were doing because they were very, very paranoid. If they saw 3 slaves talking together, or too close together, they thought, oh my God, they're trying to plot our demise. They're going to get us. We must break them up at once. You know what I'm saying? And that mindset is still prevalent today. It's still even written in some books and codes. That's why they bust up people on the street. Okay, they bust them up, and y'all know how they do. The police work for us, and people don't know that. We pay that. Yes, that's true. Yeah, we pay their salaries with our city taxes. Yes, that's true, but it doesn't matter. This is a racist society. This society was built on the concept of race. I know a lot of people don't want to, acknowledge race anymore as a social construct. It doesn't mean anything. We're not black. They're not white, yada, yada, yada. But baby, let me tell you something. That don't do a damn thing about how we ended up here. Okay? Race played a huge factor in chattel slavery. It played a huge factor in the laws that were put on the books to oppress us based on our melanin content and other phenotypical features. Okay, so we can't do this. Okay, we're not going to be so caught up in words and semantics and this white man science. Ooh, makes my eye twitch. White man science. But we can't get so fucking pro-black, that we are going to just throw all the facts and the truth out the window because they don't suit our sensibilities anymore. We can't do that. We have to look at things historically and logically and reasonably. So the fact is, we were pulled from a certain place and brought over here, and our phenotype, the way we look physically, had a lot to do with that. Okay, and it has a lot to do why other ethnic groups can assimilate better into white society. Okay, we are the worst assimilators, no matter what we do, no matter how properly we speak their English, no matter how straight we wear our hair, no matter how, preppy we dress, and, where we eat and how we eat and where we live and where we went to school, none of that shit matters at the end of the damn day. No, it doesn't matter. That's the illusion of inclusion, okay? It doesn't matter what the fuck we do, okay? Oh, you people are lazy and uneducated. Okay, so we go out and get these educations and we work our asses off. And what? It's still a problem. Blackness will always be a problem in a society where anti-blackness is prevalent, okay? That's just the truth, okay? I mean, I wish it wasn't that way. But it is. Hey, Sister Betty. Hey, Ia Gwen. Hey, Sister Ashley. They don't even have a monument dedicated to over the 8 million who died. But you know what? They don't need to, because we are the monuments. We are the living testimony of those lives. We are ancestors returned. So we don't need no stinking statues. A statue would be nice. A plaque would be great. All right? but we are the monuments of our ancestors. Yes, we are. Okay? We are the ones that make them immortal. We are the ones that make them ever powerful. We are the ones that allow them to continue living. And they are very much alive in us and in our children, and they will stay alive in our children's children. Okay? That's how they get immortality. So forget them and their monuments. Their monuments don't mean nothing. Okay? Every year, groups of people get together to honor those that were lost along the Atlantic slave trade, you know. And we're living monuments when we participate in those types of ceremonies. So we don't need them to do nothing for us, because we're doing it for ourselves and our children. Slavery is still legal on the books. If you ever go to prison, they give you the document. Yes, that's true. You know, let me tell you something. I had a very profound and emotional experience this morning. Spirit had me up at 3 o'clock on Facebook, and the first post that I saw was Brother CJ Shaw L. We had an event with him yesterday where we were distributing fresh groceries in the community, right? And Brother CJ Shaw L is a member of Moorish Science Temple of America. Okay, so we linked up because we believe in unity. Okay, it doesn't matter what your personal beliefs are, what you call yourself, what your politics are. None of that stuff matters. We unite on this. Okay, we unite on that. And so anyway, so I'm up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the first post I see on the timeline is one of his about the event yesterday. And there was this brother that had commented, and something said, am I still on here? Because I got a phone call just now. Do I get cut off? Okay, because yesterday I thought I was on live and it wasn't. So anyway, a brother had commented, and he had a really interesting African name. So I'm like, oh, okay, who's that? And so I clicked on his page, and it looked like he was living in Ghana and was not Ghanaian. And so, you know, I friended him, and I'm like, whoa, you know, what is all this? And he is, in fact, you know, from here. He's a brother from here, and he moved to Ghana and bought land and was having a house built and all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, shit, you know. And he was just busting with all these really incredible things. And he was just telling me how it felt to be there. And we were talking about, you know, how toxic this land is, you know, and it's spiritually just dying, right? Or even dead in some cases, depending on how you look at things. Whereas the land over there was vibrant and alive and very spiritually alive. And when he was just talking about all his things that he's trying to do, one of the things the brother said he was trying to do is build a town for Black Americans to come home to. And I just broke down when I was reading this. I'm like, man, I actually felt like a slave who was looking at a free Black person. And I just felt like this thing about what that must have been like, because there have been enslaved people who moved in the same spaces as free Black folks, you know? And I just got overwhelmed by that feeling. So slavery is very, very real. It's just changed. It's changed. It's evolved over time. Okay. So there were times that slaves could, you know, like around the holiday, you know, once a year, they could leave the plantation or whatever and go visit loved ones, you know, in the next town, you know, and spend the night even, and then, you know, come back. And that just freedom of being able to move. Can you imagine what that's like for someone that has to stay in the same physical place for the rest of the year, every day, day in, day out? You know, so it's like this limited freedom. And I just feel like for us here, that's what we have. We have like a limited freedom. We can't just all do what we want to do. You can't just go and just, you know, set up and just do whatever you want. So it's like, yeah, we are still slaves. We are. Absolutely. And my daughter says that was her calling and she's coming home from work. I'll see you when you get here, boo. Food is illegal. Yeah, yeah. A lot of the stuff they put in our food is, in fact, banned in other countries. That's true. I never thought about how it was like as a slave to see free blacks. There's a book, Sister Zara, called Wench, W-E-N-C-H, and the author of the book escapes me now. I haven't finished reading it myself, but that book does speak to that. Okay, it's a book about enslaved African women who were the bed wenches of these white farmers and plantation owners, and they would take a holiday like once or twice a year, and they would go to this sort of resort area, and their wives and other family members were not able to go. It would just be them and their wenches, right? And they could go there and freely, be with their wenches. And they were on the border. Okay, now I'm not remembering correctly, but they were on the border between slavery being legal and then free black folks being able to live over here. And some of them had walked over the line and they got to see free black people for like the first time. And they had heard things, but they were like, that's a fantasy. That's just some made up old, story that doesn't exist. And they actually got to witness free black people. And they were just so freaked out. It's a real interesting book. As a matter of fact, I think I might want to go back and finish reading it because it was a really fascinating story. Oh, Ariana's coming. Yay. Haven't seen her in a minute. No, we don't really have freedom here. No, most of the things we do here, we have to ask permission to do, says Brother Tiarchit. You're right. We're not. That's what Gaddafi was trying to do with the help of the, yep, that's right. And that's why he's no longer with us. Exactly. It seems like whenever anybody is moving along that path, they end up dead. Okay? They end up dead. They get taken out. Peace and love, Kay Renee. That's just the way it's just always been, and here I am, somebody that works with a group of people that is trying to do the same thing. But we have all come to the realization and the acceptance of the fact that any one of us at any time could possibly lose our lives doing what we're doing. Okay? We could have lost our lives on April 1st. All right, because the way and I'm talking about an incident where the police attacked the organization I work with, New Era Chicago, and New Era Detroit was with us. They were doing some very provocative things, right? And it was almost like they wanted to provoke somebody to reach behind and grab their piece, or lash out with violence against them because they could find a reason to go and get their guns and start shooting us. I really do believe that. And, but like I said, we put ourselves on the line. A lot of activists have lost their lives over the recent years, and it isn't a fluke, okay? Not just activists, a lot of activist children and other family members have died as well. And that shit ain't random, okay? But as spiritual workers, we do what we can do to protect ourselves, okay? And one way that we do that is to honor our ancestors, right? Is to honor the Creator, because we know what we're doing is righteous, good work for the people. And we're not causing any harm. We're not doing anything illegal. We're not hurting anyone. We're well within our rights to do what we do. We're protected by the so-called Constitution. We're exercising our First Amendment rights. So, we have to do what we have to do, Our people are suffering out here, and there are just people like us who can't just sit back and watch that happen and just do nothing but, complain about it. And not everybody's cut out for African spiritual traditions. Not everybody's cut out, to be a root worker. Not everybody's cut out to be on the front lines in the community, fighting against the system. But we all basically accepted that our lives could be snuffed out like that tomorrow because of what we do, because we are easy targets like that, but the love for our people weighs more than the fear we have of debt. That's just the long and short of it. Let me see what else we got here. Okay, so I think I'm gonna wrap this up. This is my daughter and little Queen's about to walk up in here and visit with me, and I need a drink. So I'm gonna go and fix myself something to drink and have a little visit. So I'm gonna wish you all peace and love this evening. And to Brother Saeed, let's try it another time, bro. Okay. But thanks everybody for tuning in. I enjoyed doing this. I might have to do it again. This was a lot of fun. So I'm wishing you all love, peace, and powerful juju. And Black Power. Race first.